Hello everybody and welcome back to Screen Stars. Well, I did promise when I did my Avengers Endgame review last week that I may well be doing like a spoiler filled review, because Jake didn't join me on the review as he normally does.
Hi.
And you wanted to do like a spoiler review with me, didn't you? You wanted to get involved with that. So we thought we'd film one now. Everybody's had a good week and a half to digest the film, go and see the film, as many people have, because it's up to something like 1.6 billion now worldwide. So I think it's okay to do a spoiler-filled review. So incredible film. I give it a 10 out of 10 when I did my review. We'll get your score out of the way now. What would you give it out of 10?
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. So I think it was the perfect follow-up to Infinity War. Is there anything you want to say on the film first before we start getting into the spoilers of it?
Korg.
Korg, he's your favourite character, Korg, isn't he?
Love Korg.
Do your Korg impression.
Hey man, I'm Korg. Piss off, ghost.
Yes.
I love Korg.
Korg is probably the single most brilliant character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and who needs his own film, I think.
With
Right.
Thor.
Yeah. So the film starts off basically pretty grim. You know, Thanos has done what he has done. Right at the beginning of the film, we see Hawkeye. We see why he had nothing to do with Infinity War, because he basically retired and become a family man.
It's quite sad, isn't it?
Yeah, and then
His family literally disappears in front of his eyes.
so he loses everybody. I mean, pretty unfair. I mean, if you're supposed to lose 50% of, everybody, I mean, he was the only one that lived out of, his wife and 3 kids. What are the odds of that? So there was that. So that really was a good setup for the film. And then we see Tony Stark on the ship with Nebula, and he'd been in space 23 days. Some pretty good effects here, because he looked pretty gaunt and thin, didn't he? And I think obviously some of that was to do with the effects.
Looked about as thin as Yukon.
Yeah. So, and then Captain Marvel saves the day, which everybody kind of predicted might happen, how he was going to get out of that scenario, and that's what happened.
Or Pepper was going to appear in her outfit at rescue, which
Yeah.
she did, but not to save Tony.
Yeah. So Captain Marvel brings Tony back to Earth. He has a bit of a argument with Captain America, and he raises some really brilliant points, I think, Tony Stark, when he says, look, if you'd have just done what I told you to do in Civil War, in that film, we'd have been prepared for this, more prepared than we were. And he's absolutely right, isn't he?
Yeah.
So they had a bit of an argument, a bit of a falling out, and then they learn where Thanos has gone, and they're off. The rest of the Avengers head off in the hope, don't they, to reverse what Thanos has done, but it's too late.
And Thor goes for the head.
Yeah. Thor doesn't miss this time, takes Thanos out when they realise it can't be undone.
Decapitates him.
And one of the biggest shocks then of the film for me was the next scene when it says 5 years later. I didn't expect that. Did you expect that? No. So it's now 5 years later. Captain America's running a therapy group.
Oh, there's one at Russo Brothers in
Yeah,
there.
it was
coming out gay.
Yeah, one of the guys in the group was one of the Russo brothers. Well spotted, Jake. Black Widow's now kind of running the Avengers, it looks like. They're all off all over in different places, still maintaining the peace.
Brie Larson's got a dodgy trim.
Brie Larson's got a dodgy haircut. And they're all a bit lost, but by this point Ant-Man has come back from his
The rat. It's the rat's fault.
The rat sets off the thing in the van, and he comes back from his quantum realm, is it, or something like that? So he's back now, and again, this is one of the next predictions that a lot of people had, that the quantum realm was going to have a massive part of this film, as it does, because Ant-Man comes back, comes up with this crazy theory of maybe manipulating time in there, so they can go back in time. But the only person with a brain big enough to do this is Tony Stark, who point blank refuses, because he doesn't want to risk losing his daughter and changing the futures and all this kind of stuff. So they go to Professor Hulk, which is one of the risks they took in the film. And what really worked for this film as well is they took risks. They took risks with the Hulk here, with this character, and it really paid off. So they've combined Bruce Banner and the Hulk now to make the Professor Hulk. They go to him in the hope that they can help. He can help make this time machine because Tony Stark has said no. And then Tony Stark figures it all out, as he does because he's bloody clever. Decides to help them, but they've got to get the Avengers, what's left of them, back together. And the next risk that they take is with Thor. Who really genuinely expected them to go in this direction with Thor? I didn't. Did you expect it? Not at all. I thought it was very brave, and I thought Chris Hemsworth, who doesn't get enough credit as an actor, pulled this off brilliantly. It was a brilliant comedic performance, great comedy timing, and it really, really worked. And that scene when they walk into his home,
and
when Korg's playing Fortnite,
Yeah,
and what does he say to?
he goes, "He thought kind of game's gonna be dickhead again, bro."
Yeah. It was just absolutely classic, and the way they injected humour into this film in such a dark subject matter in many ways was just brilliant. So they managed to get Thor on board only by promising beer to him.
New Master 69.
Yeah. They promised him beer on the ship. So they get Thor on board just about. They get the rest of them back. Natalia gets Hawkeye from Japan, who's been spent the last 5 years butchering criminals, and they present this crazy theory, and then they spend the next few days figuring out how are they going to go back in time and collect these stones before Thanos at all the right places in time. And they spend a few days brainstorming things here and there, and then they all head off for the different assignments. Captain America.
Thor tells a magnificent story about falling in love with Jane Foster. It gets very sad.
Yeah. So Hulk, Captain America, Iron Man, and Ant-Man go back to the New York Avengers 2012 conflict right at the end of that battle, sort of thing, to get the cube. What's it called? I've forgotten his name now.
Tesseract.
The Tesseract, yeah. War Machine and Nebula go to get is it the Power Stone?
From Xandar.
Yeah, the one that what's it called? Peter Quill was collecting from Guardians of the Galaxy.
And the show scene of him dancing at the start of Guardians of the Galaxy without the music.
And then, it was really clever how they did it, because he would look an imbecile without the music, wouldn't they? And he did. They send Talia and Hawkeye to get the Soul Stone, which I shall talk about later.
They send Captain America to get... Well, I've already said that.
Yeah.
And they make a joke to where Tony goes back with Tony, Ant-Man and Captain go back to get Tesseract, and Tony's looking at Captain America's ass at the end of the first Avengers when they got Loki, and he goes, "That is America's ass, Captain." And then and then there's a confrontation between Captain and Captain, and he makes a joke saying, "I can do this all day," and he goes, "Yeah, I get it." And then when he knocks him out, he looks at his own ass and he goes, "That is America's ass."
They get, again, great ways of getting humour in the film. They do a brilliant job with that. They kind of mess it up a bit. Again, I'll talk about that in a bit. So they have to go back to the 70s then to get it even further back in time.
Tony meets his dad.
Yes, he does. He meets Howard Stark, so he gets some closure there. However, in Nebula's timeline, she sets off like a malfunction in her past Nebula, and Thanos then gets onto the plan. He figures out what they're doing, and he decides he's having none of it, by the way. So he hatches a plan to swap his past Nebula with the future Nebula in order for him to travel through time to take over the Power Stones again, just as they've collected them all. So they all come back. Boo-hoo, cry high, because Natalia...
Nah, Hawkeye, right? Why did they kill Black Widow instead of Hawkeye?
Well, that's a debate that many people are having, but he had a family.
Yeah, which was erased at that point.
Yeah, but they wouldn't have been, but if this had worked out. So yeah, Natalia, first big death of the film.
Black
Really,
Widow.
she sacrifices herself for the Soul Stone. They all come back to the present. But what? They try and decide who's strong enough to use the Infinity Gauntlet, and they decide Professor Hulk's the only one strong enough to even have a chance at doing the click. They do the click.
Brings
Everybody's back, or so we would seen, because Hawkeye gets a phone call from his wife, and then Thanos strikes, and then the next hour of the film is just full on action.
Oh yeah, because Thanos comes back.
Thanos comes through because Nebula brings him through the time thing. He blows up the Avengers building. Massive battles. Some really brilliant cinematic experiences.
Horror bits with Hawkeye and the Chitauri.
Yeah. Captain America is finally worthy to hold Thor's hammer, to wield it, which is a really brilliant cinematic moment. Really brilliant battle scenes, and then the dramatic entrance of all the missing Avengers and the people in Black Panther, Wakanda. Everybody from there, and all the wizards, everybody turns up. Everybody who disappeared come through the portals.
And Ant-Man gets really big again.
Doctor Strange brings them all back, and then another massive battle ensues. Goosebumps everywhere, huge battle, and the film finishes with Tony making the ultimate sacrifice.
Last words were literally "I am Iron Man,"
which were his last words in the very first Iron Man film. So we lose Tony Stark. Very, very emotional. And
his funeral.
And then the funeral was very emotional.
His there was loads of people at the funeral, literally everybody, and then there was a kid that didn't stand out, and it's the kid from Iron Man 3 that helps him when he's.
Yeah, I didn't realise who it was at first, and then they put two and two together. It was the kid in the Iron Man 3 film that was at his funeral. And then Captain America puts all the stones back in where they belong in time, and then he decides to live a life, and we next see him as an old man, passing over the Captain America shield to Sam, i.e. Falcon, which apparently happened in the comics as well at one point, so that makes sense. So that was Avengers Endgame. Now I want to finish this with a couple of little niggly things. I said at the time when I did my review...
Don't call them that.
Well, they're issues that I have with the film. I said at the time, there were some problems with it, that they made some choices to give the film cinematic scale and cinematic choices. But, for example, when Hawkeye and Natalia go to collect the Soul Stone, they've all been sat around for days, or it feels like, brainstorming how best to get the stones. Did no one think to mention to them, by the way, that whoever's going for the Soul Stone, one of you's going to have to make a sacrifice? Nebula knew this because she'd already lost her sister. Why didn't anybody ever mention this? So, and I said to you as well at the time, coming home in the car from the cinema, what would happen if someone went to get the Soul Stone and you're on your own? It's just you.
Throw your phone.
Throw your phone, yeah. Most people are in love with the phones, aren't they? So if it was just you, how on earth are you ever going to get the Soul Stone? You actually need somebody with you who you really deeply care about.
I also don't understand why Red Skull's the guardian of the Soul Stone, because he got trapped inside the Tesseract, not the Soul Stone.
Yeah, and also another niggle for me, like Hawkeye comes back. It's a real world. You look in the dictionary, you'll find niggle. When Hawkeye comes back and he's distraught that he's lost Natalia, and he tells everybody, and then they're all stood on this pier looking out the lake arguing over Natalia. Look at Hawkeye's hair. He's so distraught, but he's timed to gel his hair up beautifully. It's all gelled up with his tram lines in. Would you find the time to make your hair look beautiful if you just lost someone you loved?
No.
It didn't make a lot of sense to me. I thought some of the teams that they sent out, on the missions didn't make a lot of sense. Why would they send Nebula and War Machine to go and pick up that stone? Tony Stark's a genius. He's just figured out time travel. Would he not figure out, hang on a minute, you've got a computer brain that could interfere with your past computer brain on that timeline? Tell you what, we'll send you to New York in 2012 instead. We won't risk it. Nobody thought that.
And
Because if it wasn't for that, Thanos would never have figured out what they were doing and come back in time. He wouldn't have done it. So it was a massive error on their part, and somebody must have had a sec. Tony Stark would have surely thought of that, wouldn't they? What else? And another one as well is when Professor Hulk clicks his fingers to bring everybody back, yeah, and he gets his phone call from his wife, Hawkeye. Where's everybody else? Where's all the Avengers? I'll tell you where they are. They turn up 10 minutes later, perfect timing to save the day. You know, I just thought it was very convenient, but it made for great cinema. But there was lots of little niggles and potholes in this film. Your favourite word, niggles, again.
No, it's not my favourite word. It just sounds weird. You've wrote down Avengers niggles. What is that?
It's a niggle. These are niggles. And do you know what else as well? When they went to New York in 2012, the plan they had to steal the Tesseract was just a bit bonkers. Think about it. They had to shrink Ant-Man to such a size to get him inside Tony Stark's chest to give him a heart attack. And they had to get the timing so perfectly right. And even then it didn't work, did it?
What?
Couldn't he have just waited while somebody got in a car with it, and then Iron Man flew after him and just nicked it?
And also, we could have got the time stone first, and then gone, stopped time, just took it and gone.
Very, very clever. Yeah.
I'm
could have got the time
13
stone
and
first.
I figured that out.
Time stone first, and then stop time, and then just pick it out of their hands, and then speed time up again. Put the time.
But
back
they
to normal.
they needed time to look at Captain America's ass. Is what they needed.
So there are lots of little. I won't say it. There are lots of little
Things
that you could pull apart with this movie, and I didn't choose to at the time of my review, and I still stand by my 10 out of 10. These are quite funny little issues with the film, really, but they are there. My favourite one is the fact that Hawkeye's so upset by Natasha that he gels up his hair perfectly still, or straight afterwards after coming through time. He can't handle his hair not looking right. So yeah, best film I've seen this year. The best Avengers film,
also,
I think.
Wait, what were we going to say?
Easily.
Also,
What?
What's the point in hyping up Captain Marvel and putting her in the film for 5 minutes?
Well, I said to you, I thought that was a clever move, because Brie Larson is going down in the Marvel Cinematic Universe like a fart in a spacesuit. She doesn't seem to be very popular, so
No.
I thought her reduced role in this film, if it was reduced, was a smart move. She made an impact when she turned up. She saved Tony. She saved everybody else when she destroyed that massive spaceship. So she made a grand entrance a couple of times. So she just did enough, I think. I think if it had they made out that she saved everybody and saved the day all the time, I think fans wouldn't have been happy, because fans don't really seem to be warming to her. Don't know why, but that's just the way it is.
She's a feminist.
Don't matter. She can be a feminist. It doesn't matter. But I don't think she got on with the cast as well. If you look at some interviews with the cast,
One
and
with
stuff.
War Machine, she goes like that, right, guys, and he goes, "Don't touch me." Don't.
Yeah. They do give her a few dirty looks and things, so I don't think she's overly popular. Someone's pipping their own, so that's a sign for us to finish, because this is getting to nearly 20 minutes as well, because you've kept talking so much. So wave bye-bye to everybody.
Bye-bye.
Best film of the year so far. It's probably going to beat Avatar as the most profitable film of all time.
Not that many niggles.
You nearly said something else.
No,
then.
I didn't. Niggles.
Right, thanks very much for watching, everybody, and we shall see you next time on
Screen Stars.
Thanks for watching.